Thank you, Nadej. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to be with you today to present the Cofund action. Unfortunately, it's not possible for us to be in person yet, but I think there is hope. It's getting better, but still, at least well, we can manage. I think we are getting very much used to this new way of doing meetings now. So let me start. Let's see if I can change the slide here. Margot, can you please move to the next slide? I'm still not able to change it. Yes, thank you. So what is, eh, I think one back, I think. Yes, no, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, sorry about that. Yes. Okay, so what is Cofund? Cofund is a mono-beneficiary action to co-fund new or existing national, regional institution schemes for doctoral training and postdoctoral fellowships. So the focus is we want to spread the best practice of the Mary Sklodowska-Curie actions by promote high standards in the recruitment process and excellent working conditions. We want to introduce sustainable structuring in effects by promoting excellent and sustainable research training, international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary cooperation and mobility. We also wanted to encourage synergies with cohesion policy funds, as well with the recovery and resilience facility. Programs could focus on specific disciplines, notably when based on smart specialization strategies. So I should have the control on the slides here. So let me try. Yes, yeah, so now it's working. Thanks, Margot. So what are the modalities that we have? So we have two schemes. We have the doctoral programs that offer research and training activities to doctoral candidates to develop and broaden their skills. This program must lead to the award of a doctoral degree in a EU member state or Horizon Europe associated country. And the training activities offered should be based in the EU principles on innovative doctoral training. And we also have the postdoctoral programs that these are more focused on more experienced researchers normally. So basically they fund individual advanced researcher training and career development fellowships for postdoctoral researchers. The programs must offer training to develop key transferable skills and competences which are common to all fields. So they must foster innovation and entrepreneurship and promote, when appropriate, and reward open science practices. So who can apply? Any single legal entity which is established in a EU member state or a Horizon Europe associated country. But the condition is that the institution must recruit at least 3 researchers. They are required, the beneficiaries or partner, but I will come to that in a moment. They are required to host at their premises and supervise the fellows, the researchers, or use the implementing partners linked to the beneficiary to do so. Okay, so okay, went a bit too fast. Let's see how to go back here. Margot, maybe you can take over the control, because for me to go back here, not so familiar, sorry about that, because just one slide back. Yes, super. Thank you, Margot. I mean, yes, thank you. So basically, the institutions can be from the academic or from the non-academic sector. Even from the academic sector, they are public or private higher education establishments. They can be also research organizations or international European research organizations. And the non-academic sector are all the institutions that do not fit into the description I have just given on the academic sector. So it's basically any social economic actor not included in the academic sector. Next, please, Margot. Yes, so what are the possible structures that we can have within the Cofund scheme? So as I said, Cofund is mono-beneficiary, so there is only one institution applying for it. However, in the first example that you see here, for instance, there could be a research funding organization applying and having partners, universities, could be laboratories, could be private organizations, implementing different parts of the training program. This is also a possibility. Next, please. Excuse me. The second option, you could have a university applying for the Cofund scheme as beneficiary, but also have other universities or private organizations or laboratories, museums, doing different parts, executing the different parts of the research training program. This happens, for instance, if you have a research and training program covering different disciplines, for instance, and therefore different universities will be in charge of implementing the different fields of the research and training program. That happens quite often. Next, please. And we also, of course, have the possibility of having a single point. So basically, you have one institution doing everything. So there is also a possibility. There is not right or wrong, or let's say a suitable structure for the action. Everything is possible. It's up to the evaluators to assess whether the structure, let's say, suggested in the case, proposed, is feasible. Next, please. So with regard to the co-funding, because as said, we are providing funding to funders, the beneficiary can receive up to a maximum of 10 million per co, and this remains the same. It was the same in Horizon 2020. The duration of each program is a maximum of 60 months. However, each fellowship must have a minimal duration of 3 months, and this remains unchanged comparing to Horizon 2020. The vacancies must be published in your access. It was the same in Horizon 2020. This is a requirement by the grant agreement. Of course, they must advertise the positions as widely as possible. However, your access it's mandatory, as I said, is required by the grant agreement, so they must be published in your access as well. Next, please. So, who are the eligible researchers to apply? In the case of the doctoral programs, it must be researchers that do not have yet a doctoral degree at the deadline of the co-funded program's call. And as I said that before, it's mandatory that they are enrolled in a doctoral program. For the postdoctoral researchers, normally they are normally more experienced, and therefore they should have a doctoral degree at the deadline of the co-funded programs call. They can be of any nationality. There is no restriction with regard to that. However, they must comply with the mobility rule. Therefore, the researchers must not have resided or carry out their main activity in the country of the recruiting beneficiary or partner organization for more than 12 months in the 36 months immediately before the deadline of the co-funded programs call. Next, please. So what are the main differences that we have compared to Horizon 2020? So the first difference is the research eligibility. Now we don't have the requirement, the requirement that we had before with regard to the research experience. This no longer applies. So basically, the researcher, in the case of doctor, should not have the degree, the PhD degree yet, and that for the postdoctor, he or she should have the PhD degree. That's all that applies in Horizon Europe. The EU contribution covers the minimum remuneration required, so that we cover the required minimum amount, and it can be used more flexibly. And I will come to that in a moment in the next slide. There will be a possibility to apply from long-term leave allowance or special needs allowance, which was not the case in the past. With regard to the duration of seconds, there's some restriction there, meaning that it can last up to 1/3 of the fellowship duration. And what is new as well for Cofund, we now have the introduction of the MSCA Cofund Seal of Excellence for application is current equal or higher 85%. Next, please. So the award criteria, next. Here, I'm not going to go in detail with regarding to the award criteria because you have all this detailed information in the work program. The only thing that I would like to draw your attention is the weight of the different criteria. So we have the excellent with a 50% weight, followed by impact by 30%, and the quality and efficient of the implementation at 20%. It was the same in the past. However, this now in Horizon Europe, we want to give even more focus not only in the election, how is the selection and recruitment of the fellows, of the researchers are made, but we will also be looking at the conditions that are offered to the researchers. So basically the package that they get, the package that they are getting. So it's basically the appointment conditions, including the competitiveness of the salary of the researchers, which in the past was looked at under implementation and now has moved to excellence. So you just want to make sure that the researcher will get the best out of it. Next, please. So with regard to the budget structure and the implementation. So as I said before, the unit cost can be used more flexibly in Horizon Europe. The allowance, as mentioned, so basically for doctoral programs is now 2,800 euros. For postdoctoral programs is 309,800 euros, and that's the minimum, the remuneration that should apply. However, the beneficiary can use this more flexibly. I mean, it doesn't have to be used, for instance, to cover the salary. It can be used, for instance, to cover research costs or any other part of the research and training program. The only thing that it's important is that the researcher will get that amount, but the beneficiary has the possibility to use this more flexibly, for instance, to cover, as I said, some other parts of the training program, and he or she can cover the salary, not necessarily by the EU contribution, but for any other additional resources. And as already mentioned as well, there is a possibility to apply for the long-term allowance and special needs allowance, and this can be requested at any time during the implementation of the project should the need arise. Next, please. One thing that is very important when applying to the Cofund action is that the applicants must specify in their proposal the total costs of their proposed program, and in particular the amounts that will be provided for the benefit of the researchers, for the organizations that will be implementing the programs. As I said to you, this is now looked after under excellence, and therefore during the evaluation, the experts, the evaluators will look at the feasibility of this to see whether it's not only the feasibility, but it also has to be, of course, convincing to the evaluator, this convincing and reasonable that it will be possible to implement this during the researching training program. Next, please. Some novelties compared to Horizon 2020. The EU contribution covers the minimum remuneration, as I said. We cover it fully, and this has been calculated as a 70% of the limiting of mobility allowance of the postdoctoral of the individual fellowships, but and it can now be used more flexibly. The new long-term leave allowance, we have this option, as I said, to cover personal costs incurred by the beneficiaries. This is in the case of researchers' leave, which could be maternity, paternity, parental, or sick leave. So it's basically any leave which is longer than 30 consecutive days. There's also the possibility to apply for the special needs allowance. So this is an allowance which contributes to additional costs for the acquisition of special needs item or service for researchers with disabilities. And as I said, both of those allowances can be requested when the need arises throughout the implementation of the project. Next, please. So with regard to the project implementation, each beneficiary or partner involved in the training program must recruit each researcher under employment contract, a full employment contract with equivalent social security coverage. And in the case when these cannot be provided, then the beneficiary may exceptionally recruit the researcher under a fixed amount fellowship. But I can tell you from experience that this is really rare. Most of the researchers recruited are recruited under a full employment contract. But of course, in the case that the law, the national law does not allow for that, this is a possibility. Next, please. So with regard to the selection of researchers, the selection must follow, must be an open, transparent, merit-based, impartial, and equitable selection procedure, with vacancies internationally advertised and published. And as I said before, including the REA access, not only, but it, as I said, it must be advertised there as it's a requirement by the grant agreement. And in the case of the postdoctoral programs, the selection must be based on international peer review. The training program should offer a wide variety of opportunities for the researchers. Also, we would like the researcher to experience secondments, including intersectoral ones. It's not mandatory, but it's highly encouraged in such a way that the researchers will benefit of the training in research and transferable skills. And as well as innovative and interdisciplinary elements of the program. The researchers, both doctoral and postdoctoral, must be devoted full-time to the project. And however, part-time for personal or family reasons is possible with a prior agreement of the REA. However, part-time due to professional reasons can be requested only for postdoctoral researchers. Next slide, please. Cofund under Horizon 2020, here I'm going to provide with a bit of statistics from your past call. So last year, last call, basically the Cofund 2020 call for the fellowship program, we have received 82 eligible proposals with an average budget of 2.69 million, and you can see the distribution of proposals per country, mostly coming from Spain and then followed by France, German, Ireland. We have some from Switzerland. You can see Belgian. We have received 2 proposals from Belgium in the past call. And next slide, please. So, and as a result, 24 proposals have made it to the main list. And the average budget requests 2.49 million, and you can see the successful proposals per country. You can see in orange the 2 proposals from Belgium made it to the list. But most of them came from Spain, followed by France and Ireland. Next slide, please. So with regard to the doctoral programs, we have received this, we have had 66 eligible proposals requesting a budget on average of 2.32 million. So most proposals came from France, followed by Spain and Italy, Poland, proposals from Finland. So you can see they spread among the countries. And we have received 2 proposals from Belgium. Next, please. And we have, as a result, we got 19 proposals in the main list with a budget of 2.04 million. And you can see that the successful proposals are from Spain, followed by Italy, Netherlands, and Austria. And unfortunately, there's no proposal from Belgium for the doctoral program in the past call. Next, please. So with regard to the submission evolution, it has been increasing since 2014. And being a record in the past call, we have received we have reached the record of receiving 157 proposals. You can also see the success rate over the years. Also on the graph, you can see that there has been a change every year. But I think it's worth for me to mention to you that it depends very much, of course, on the size of the budgets of the proposal received, because of course, if the proposals have a higher budget, higher individual budget, we will be funding less proposals. And if the budget is, of course, smaller budgets, then we'll be able to fund more proposals. Of course, it depends on the size of the budgets of the different proposals received. So last call, we had a success rate of 29%. Next slide, please. So here you can see also the nationalities of the fellows over the years. So you can see reflected on the graph 120 nationalities. We have about 50 fellows from Belgium there in orange. And to a lesser extent, the countries, and the graph below are not so many, but they are reflected there. So basically, we have fellows from all over the world. Next slide, please. So with regarding to the next call, so 2021 and 2022 calls. So the current call, the call should have opened on the 12th of October, but unfortunately we are facing some technical issues with the call. But the IT team is working very hard to have it fixed as soon as possible. So I expected the call to be opening quite soon, shortly. The Cofund deadline it will be on the 10th of February 2022 with a budget of 89 million euros. And for the 2022 call, we expect the call to open on 11th of October of 2022 with a call deadline on 9th of February 2022 with a budget of 95 million euros. So that's all from me. And next slide, please. So I want to say thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. And now I will leave Margot to deal with the questions. Margot? Okay, maybe I can just answer the first question. Yes, of course, the presentation will also be made available after the session.
Yes, hello, good morning. Sorry, I have some issues with Zoom here.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't see my screen anymore, do you? Am I correct?
Yes, we can still see it.
Okay, so I don't understand why I cannot quit it. Okay, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, I can see a question in the chat on gender equality. Are there special gender equality requirements for the MSCA Cofund program?
Yes, there is a gender equality plan to be dealt in the proposal. Yes, we expect that to be dealt in the proposal. And genders is also looked at under the excellence criteria. Yes.
And I assume that this gender equality plan has to be in place for calls with the deadline in 2022, I thought was a rule, right?
Exactly, which is the case already now. I'm given the yes, but yeah. This applies to all MSCA. Yeah, no, it's not only Cofund.
Okay, clear. Another question: will there be restrictions set on submission between the first and the second call?
No, we do not have any restrictions for Cofund. No.
Okay, then. Okay, we have answered those. Then I see a question from Natasha Witorski. I will give her the floor. Okay, Natasha, you can unmute yourself now.
I don't know what it is because I don't have any questions. So maybe
Okay.
just
Okay,
sorry.
no problem.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, then there are some other questions. So you have explained that it's a mono-beneficiary action, but yeah, it can be implemented with other implementing partners. And under Horizon 2020, do you have an idea of how big these consortia were on average?
So it depended very much. As I said, these are what I just explained are just possibilities, but it's not set. It doesn't have to be like that. So in the past, we have had a combination. We have had projects with a huge number of partners involved, but we have also had projects with just one beneficiary. So it depends very much on the research and training program, what's being offered. So there is no, let's say, recommendation in terms of size, in terms of the number of fellows to be recruited. We have fellows with many researchers being recruited, but we have had projects with 10 fellows being recruited or even less. So there is no parameter with regarding to those. It all depends on what is being offered in terms of the research training.
Okay, clear. Then we have received another question. Can non-academic entities be involved without being formally implementing partners?
Yes, they can. Yes, definitely they can. There is nothing against it, against that. So it's all a matter whether it depends very much because they are partners that are actually putting money into the research training program. Others that are not, so it depends very much on the role, but they can be involved from the academic and the non-academic. And as I said, it depends on the role they will have in the training program, but there is no restrictions with regard to that. The only thing that we encourage, as I said, it's not mandatory. We encourage, in the case of having partners, to think about having a consortium agreement to see how the different roles will work.
Okay, that's clear. Thank you. Then in which month after the start of the action are the researchers usually recruited? Maybe you have some experience there on the Horizon 2020, what you have seen?
When they normally said, so it depends very much. I mean, the start date is quite flexible, so it's not like it has to be started at a given time. For Cofund, what I have seen that some beneficiaries, for instance, once they are successful, they like to start the training program as soon as possible, meaning that they start and they do all the evaluation, the advertisement of the code and evaluation selection process, and this is counting towards the start of the researching program. So they do all that. Others prefer to start at the moment that the fellow is being recruited, meaning that the part of advertisement, selection, recruitment, and so on, it's not covered, let's say, with the EU funding. They prefer to have that amount covered from the moment that the researcher is employed, because that means as well, it gives longer time, let's say, for the co-funding. So I don't know if it's more or less the question is that, but it depends very much on the setting of the researching training program. Both options are possible, of course. It depends very much. Some, for instance, beneficiaries do receive funding from national authorities, and for them to receive that funding, they must have the grant agreement signed, and therefore they must start it from the beginning. You know, they cannot wait, let's say, until the fellow start working to receive that additional funding from the national authority. So it all depends. All options are possible. And so each situation is a situation, I would say.
Okay, thank you. Then on the evaluation process, so how many evaluation panels are there?
Well, we don't have scientific panels, of course, because we do not the research at the proposal level, but we do have, let's say panels, yeah, 2 schemes, the doctoral and the postdoctoral. That's what we have. Okay,
so you have not, like in other Marie Curie schemes, these 8 domain-specific panels?
No, we do not, because a co-fund, it can be bottom-up. The research can be completely bottom-up, or it could be a specific. But as I said, the scientific part is not the focus of the evaluation. I mean, you might know or you might not know at all. So no, this is not the case for Cofund.
Okay, clear. Then is there an expected or ideal co-funding percentage required from the beneficiary and its implementing partners?
None. There is no co-funding expected at all. As I said, each research training program is different. There is no something that is 50-50 or 70-30, or no, there is no such a thing. It will very much depend on the total of the research and training program, on the total cost. So it depends on the different categories involved in the research and training program. We pay per fellow month. So you have a certain number of fellows. You have the duration of each fellowship. We'll pay based on that, and that's it. Well, as I said, for the co-funding part, it depends on the total cost. There is no fixed rate for that.
Okay, very clear. And then a question on the vacancies. Is it an obligation to mention the gross salary of the researchers in the vacancy?
Oh, very good point. Yes, definitely. It is mandatory to mention that. Yes. So basically, as I said, there is the minimum amount required that the researcher must pay, must receive, and that include the social security and taxes and all that, and that should be mentioned when advertising the vacancy. Yeah, thanks for the question. Very good.
Okay. So yeah, I think this is it. There are no more questions from the audience.
Yeah, Margot, I also had a question. What is the expected impact of the extension of the Seal of Excellence to Cofund, please?
What is the expected? Sorry, didn't hear.
Impact.
Yeah.
Of the
Seal of Excellence.
The extension of the Seal of Excellence to Cofund.
So this is new to us as well. But what we hope with that, I mean, if given the score, I mean, we have excellent proposals, but of course the budget is limited. We cannot fund all of them. So we hope that with that, the funder, let's say, because we are funding funders, the funder with that might be able to get some more, let's say, credibility when asking for funding for the national authorities, for instance, and that should help the applicant, in that case, the applicant. So it should help the applicant in get funding, if not from us, by national authorities, for example. Yeah.
Okay, then I will hand over to you, Nadesh.